Ronald Reagan's Secretary of State, Alexander Haig, once described the Middle East history as one of failure and frustration, of feudalism and tribalism. Reagan himself, in his 1990 memoirs, wrote, "Perhaps we didn't appreciate fully enough the depth of the hatred and the complexity of the problems that made the Middle East such a jungle. The irrationality of Middle Eastern politics forced us to rethink our policy there." The irony seems to have escaped both Haig and Reagan, given how deeply Western foreign policy since the colonial era has contributed to making the Middle East the jungle that it is. To a native, this sounds like a domestic abuser wondering why the household he battered for years is so dysfunctional. Only, this serial abuser seems genuinely oblivious and actually thinks he's done nothing but good. Barack Obama started his presidency with audaciously hopeful ideas about a different kind of relationship between the U.S. and the wider Muslim world. In a speech in Cairo in 2009, he proclaimed, "I've come here to seek a new beginning between the United States and Muslims around the world, one based upon mutual interest and mutual respect, and one based upon the truth that America and Islam share common principles of justice and progress, tolerance, and the dignity of all human beings." Yet 7 years and many missteps later, as he ended his second term, his tone was far more cynical. The Middle East is going through a transformation, rooted in conflicts that date back millennia. Once again, it seems the irony went over Obama's head. The conflicts in the Middle East date back decades, not millennia. And his foreign policy choices poured gasoline on these conflicts, even as the region was going through a historical intergenerational transformation. For decades in the Middle East, one fact has remained constant, confirmed by successive opinion polls. Except for Israel, the region has remained intensely anti-Western, with America as the flag-bearer of Western influence in the region, bearing the brunt of its people's dislike. It wasn't always that way, though. In the 1919 Egyptian uprising, protesters marched carrying American flags next to Egyptian ones. At the time, many people in the Middle East looked upon the U.S. very positively, especially since Wilson's 14 points emphasized the right to self-determination, which they saw as supportive of their struggle for independence from colonialism. Decades before that, notable Syrian intellectual Abdulrahman al-Kawakibi wrote an appraisal of America in his 1902 book, The Nature of Tyranny. Even as he acknowledged America's deep imperfections, he stressed that compared to other contemporary governments, it had a political system that effectively restrained tyranny. Why is the Middle East so messed up, and how can it be fixed? The problem starts with the question itself. Human societies are living, breathing things. You don't fix living things, you heal them. The question should be more about what has hurt these societies and how we stop the hurt.